You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
From the hills of Strawberry Canyon, I'm Coin Dang, and this is the Golden Bear Cast. Let's go. Go Bears.
What is up, Cal fans? We are back with another episode of the California Golden Bear Cast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am your co-host, officially back from the campsite and from stealing the Wi-Fi from a restaurant to watch the game on Saturday night. Alongside me, Rob, who was doing the tweeting from Sebastopol.
I wasn't the one doing the tweeting.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah. I was not doing the tweeting.
Were you drinking?
That was Peter. Peter was doing the tweeting for me. I wasn't sure about the internet connection status up there in Sebastopol, so I asked Peter to cover for me, and he graciously did, and he did not enjoy himself, so I owe him a nice beer when he flies in to Berkeley this week.
This is what I do every home game. Where's the love?
Right.
Do I get a beer?
Well, you're not covering for me. You want to be up in the box.
Yeah. That's fair. It does come with a delicious cookie. I guess it's worth it.
It's just the cookie that's delicious. Nothing else is good.
I did reply to Peter, though, so that's fun. I didn't know that it was not you. But I digress. We're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the one, the only Cal Football 2021, baby. 1-3. Here we are.
I mean, where are we? Where are we?
Good question. I mean, once again, on an alternate timeline, Cal's 3-1. We're feeling great. It's just that somewhere Loki effed all this up, and we got put on this other timeline, and now we're 1-3. Do you think anyone out there gets these jokes?
No, I think our demographic is slightly nerdy enough, and nerdy, like, comic book stuff has now become pretty mainstream. So I think we're in the clear.
All right. Holla at me, Marvel fans. Okay. Give me your thoughts. Just like, actually, let me ask you a couple of questions here. I want to understand your immediate reaction. So I kind of want right after the game finished. Then I want your 12-hour reaction and then your 24-hour reaction. So that would be, Sunday and then today.
Immediate reaction afterwards was not a bad loss. And I was thinking for Washington fans too, not a great win for Washington fans either. It left a bad taste in both fan bases. That was my immediate reaction. And I had a buddy of mine who was there in Sebastopol with us, like watching, and who's a UW fan. And he was like, it was such an anticlimactic way for the game to end. And I was like, yeah, like on a fumble in overtime, like on the goal line, it's probably a pretty anticlimactic way to, considering how the game had gone so far. So that was my immediate reaction. Let's go through the timeline. What was your immediate reaction?
I think my reaction was very similar. It was just kind of, I mean, I have to be one of the biggest Damian Moore, self-proclaimed Damian Moore fans. I'm sure there's bigger ones out there, but the biggest self-proclaimed.
The biggest one you know of. The biggest one you know of is yourself. So
myself and Nam. And so I don't know. I think my initial reaction was just I felt defeated, just like the team, probably, in the sense of we lost. I was not mad at the journey, not mad at the adventure that got me there, just more like, well, shit, it's time to go back to the campsite. And I think we haven't had those games, really. Like, Nevada was like, I was like questioning why I do all that I do for Cal football. So that was way worse.
Yeah. Then
TCU, I sort of was like, this is the epitome of Cal football in a nutshell. Sac State, whatever, to throw away because we did what we were supposed to do. And then this one sort of feels like the first one where I walked away from it and was like, that's football. Mm-hmm. And you win some of those games, you lose some of those games. And I still do not, 3 days later, do not understand the perspective that some folks have in expecting Cal to win 100% of those games. And I don't know if I will. And I'm okay with that. I've made my bed with it. But I don't want to get into that right now because I will later.
We definitely will later.
That was my initial. Okay. And then I think as it's progressed, so let me give you my 12-hour. My 12-hour, I kind of revisited it with a really healthy mindset because I was off the grid, no text, no Twitter, no nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So the game ends, I'm done, like just completely off the grid. And so I had a chance to kind of revisit in my mind. And I remember I was at the campfire with my buddy, also Cal, went to Cal with me. And we're just running through, and I'm just running through certain game situations, which was, the Kakoa Crawford wide open, wide open at the end zone play. Damian Moore on the, when we ran play action instead of what I thought was a really good opportunity to run it to the left, and it looked like he had daylight in front of him. And then the Damian Moore play on 4th and 2 on the outside where you throw it to him one-on-one. And, and then thinking about how we progressed in overtime, I thought a lot about the Tattersall play where, he took a really bad angle and over pursued. And then it was like arm tackle, all that got, broken through and sort of set that up. And then you go to the run play where to me, it looked like he was down short, but because of the call on the field, they were never going to reverse it. Mm-hmm. And so I just still was pissed that I think like, look, if you're going to call it a touchdown, you call it in the first 3 seconds, but what you don't do is that, like, I've seen it before where they do the delay and then, oh yeah, it's in, but it's like, it is weird because there was never a point, like, to me, there was never a point where it was clear from that angle that he made it across the line. So as that ref is running in, I was like, why? What changed? The only thing that possibly would have changed would have been after the knee was down, there was an additional push, but it sort of seemed like the knee was down already. So like, I struggled to comprehend that call. But at the end of the day, I felt in an odd way redeemed because I had been saying that this team, we needed to see 4 games for this team and not just this team. And like, thank goodness we did, right? Because the first game everyone wanted to torch the offense in Musgrave and it was too complex and it was NFL ideas that weren't going to translate to college football and Garbers was never going to be the starter and never going to be, a long-term, the right solution for us, a quarterback. And the fact that Garbers has been a quarterback all of the Wilcox era, blah, 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 right? The whole thing. O-line was questionable, but like every single plot line, storyline you could have on the offensive side of the ball, we were there in week 1. And now we're here 4 games in, and we're like, holy shit, the offense is like the best it's ever been under Wilcox. Mm-hmm. Hands down. Like, this is the best offense we've had since Goff was a quarterback at Cal.
Yeah. Chase Garbers is the leading offensive producer in the conference in terms of yards per game.
Yeah. Beast.
Passing and running. Yeah.
So this is why you wait. And this is what everyone's going to be pissed. I mean, I think some people aren't going to like this, but this is why you wait another 4 games.
Maybe you get the defense fixed in another 4 games. It could, right? And that was the intrigue that you had. I remember this after the Nevada game, or was it the TCU game where you said that you're intrigued to see how this team progresses because Wilcox's teams have usually started off fast, right? We've started off 3-0, even 5-0 in 2018, and they were fast starts, and we were winning games off the bat, but it tapered off and it started to plateau and maybe dip a little bit in form towards the middle and the grind of the Pac-12 season versus this season where we lost a few games early. Didn't look like we were going to get back on track. But then things started to click again, right? And I guess we're past the whole timeline thing because we're going to start talking about the game. I'm not even going to go over some of the stats or anything like that because we're just going to talk about the game as a whole, and some of the little nitty details. We do have some comments from listeners, so we'll use that as like a platform to drive our conversation a bit forward. But I think what your take there from a few weeks back was spot on. Because, look, everyone was upset at the offense. No one's upset at the offense now. Some people might still be mad at Chase and some of his decision-making, but you're also giving Chase the freedom to make some of those plays and not having him second-guess himself. Mm-hmm. I don't mind those interceptions. That first interception to Kyler Gordon was an exceptional play by Kyler Gordon, right? I wish he had thrown the ball maybe a little bit higher and a little bit more outside, but a toe tap interception, full extension, you got to tip the cap to the defensive back. Like that wasn't an easy catch to make by any means. And he made an incredible play, probably a SportsCenter top 10 play easily. I didn't check Saturday night if it was in there, but I think it should have been. So outside of that one, I mean, the other one, I think that was on Chase for sure. But other than the decision making, maybe some of those 5-yard flat throws that he's just been unable to make, and he throws it into the dirt, and maybe he's afraid of throwing it in a pick six because that's a pick sixable route, right? If you're throwing the flat and a guy jumps the route, there's no one else in front of him, it's just green grass. So it's outside of that, he's been playing pretty good. He's the total offensive leader, production leader in the conference, as I've already said. In terms of the yards he produces per game via his arm and on the ground. And that's kind of what we've been asking for. The Kekoa overthrow, right? One of the biggest qualms that people had with Chase was that he couldn't throw the deep ball. They were like, he doesn't have the arm. He can't throw it deep. But he's been throwing it deep this season. And then now you're upset at him because he overshot the guy. I'm like, you can't have it both ways. What are you saying that he doesn't have the arm to make the throw? Or are you saying that he does and he just overshot Kekoa on that one? Because if he doesn't have the arm, he can't even, if you don't have the arm, how are you supposed to overshoot a wide receiver like that? He saw it, he made the throw. He probably thought Kekoa had a little bit more burst in him to get there and misjudged his speed on it. But I mean, all in all, he made the right read. He made the right throw. It was just slightly overthrown.
I was devastated.
Yeah, I think most people were.
I love the perspective that you gave because it's important and good to acknowledge. But you just got to make the throw.
You do
that one.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
You can't have, both of those guys are beat over the top. So there's really a very wide margin for error in the sense that you basically just got to get the ball there. I mean, worst case scenario, you put it a little short, and yet those guys are coming on their back feet, going backwards, and Kekoa is coming forwards on the jump ball. And I still like your chances on that. And that's your worst case scenario, besides putting it kind of where Chase did, which is way too long. So you kind of got to make that play. And that's I think the thing that is the story of this game is there's been in a little bit of the story from the season. There's just been a little bit too much of these plays, especially when you're on the road, where you just got to have it. And that's the difference between the win and the loss. And what I also want to touch on too is what you said earlier in Garbers with the interceptions. I'm totally okay with he throws 2 picks every single game. I don't care at all because I think you're getting 3 to 4 touchdowns with it.
Yeah.
And if you guys are upset about that, then go see Davis Webb stats from when he played. The thing that is different there is Wilcox too is probably more okay with it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, despite his angry press conference, I think he would say he probably would take that Chase performance in a vacuum and say that probably gives us more than a chance to win the game.
Which it
even
did.
With 2 picks.
Which it did.
Oh,
it absolutely did. Right? It came down to a missed field goal off of, I don't know. I'm not going to make that judgment call on whether it was a bad snap or if it was a bad hold. I think it could have been held decently well. But the snap was a little low. So who knows on that, right?
Are we talking about our all-star Slater Zellers?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. It's always a bad hold with him if snapping the ball.
So I don't know. I can't. I don't know the intricacies of long snapping to be able to tell you if that was a bad snap or a good snap or a bad hold or a good hold.
Yeah.
And then the second one was the 55-yard field goal attempt.
Oh, so beautiful.
Which was beautiful. I said that on Twitter today too. It looked so good. It looked perfect.
It was perfect.
And it was like,
I grabbed my buddy, like literally by the collar.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
As it's in the air. Because you see it flying between the uprights and you're like, oh my God, he got it. And the camera angle just doesn't show you like, and that, okay, can I also rant a little bit about that, about the Pac-12 network? Do you not have another angle to show that kick? Like, why do you keep showing the same replay of the kick from behind the kicker? Is there no guy underneath the field goal upright to like show you that how short it was?
Dude, I feel like you could tangent on the Pac-12 network and all their dumb angles. Dude, they didn't have the right angle for the freaking touchdown play that ended up deciding the game. They didn't have it. And it was like so frustrating to me that in this day and age where Josh is the freaking dude that is literally setting up cameras at AT&T Park. Like, we know, or Oracle Park, whatever the hell it's called now. Like, we know the technology exists. One of our writers uses it all the time. Like, you can get 9 angles on a base, but you can't get 4 on a freaking, like...
End zone.
I don't understand. Like, why is there not a pylon angle? It doesn't... I'm stunned that that's allowed in college football. And I think that... Look, it doesn't. That's the thing. That's where I arrived. Was like, it doesn't matter if he scores a touchdown. It doesn't matter if we're going to fumble the ball. We're going to lose the game, right? The only possible way is if they went for it on 4th down and we stop them and then we fumble. So like, really, the end result is the same regardless. But it's still frustrating to me. Yet I don't think it would have been any different of an outcome. But. Yes, back to the kick. Kick was great. The big part of that, outside of what I thought Wilcox played that super well.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people are like, what was he doing the clock? I thought he played that really well because and now at first I was like, what? First of all right, let's go back. How the hell was Jimmy Lake not penalized for coming that far out on the field?
Yeah. I agree.
Dude, Sean McVay employs a guy that holds him back to be on the sideline. Are the rules different in college football? He was literally as far as the quarterback on the field.
I think the issue with that was it was during a timeout, so you're kind of allowed like a little space to talk to your players. Like it was during the review, right? It wasn't like in the field of play or like as the clock was running. So I think maybe that might be why he was allowed to be on the field. But your point still stands. I totally agree.
That was during the review of the Garbers play?
It was either during the it was either the review of the Garbers play or whatever it was, but there was a stoppage in play, right? It wasn't like we had gotten a first down and we were running up, like we were in the huddle and he didn't step out onto the field then. It was like it was a timeout, the refs were looking at something, both teams were on each other's sidelines. Like he was talking to the ref. But anyways, continue.
The refs trying to fix the clock. I just remember I was shocked. And, That's what we needed. We needed a little USC magic.
We did.
We just needed that, and that would have been huge. But it's just such a weird situation in that, like, you have an offensive lineman face mask. Like, what the hell? Like, how often are you going to see that called?
That's the first time I've ever seen it called.
And that, I think that play really messed up the rhythm, because our 2-minute drill, unlike against Nevada, was super good in the first half. So there was a lot of optimism there. And then you get Damian Moore, who does his thing, and then Garbers hits maybe Crawford over the middle, or Hunter does, like, whoever it was, and all of a sudden Cal's driving. And I felt like there were a couple of key moments here. One was the play after they converted, and now it was like, oh my gosh, Cal's going to be able to make a run at this thing. We hit Jeremiah Hunter on what I think was maybe a curl. And he then bounced it to the outside to get out of bounds.
Yep.
But Cal had 3 timeouts at the time.
Exactly.
And the thing that I would have been saying in that huddle is, if you catch the ball, don't go out of bounds. Get yards.
Yeah, go down.
Get upfield.
Yeah.
And like either go down, but I would say get upfield, because we're going to call timeout anyways. And the defense isn't going to expect that either. They're going to expect you to bounce it out.
Right.
So that was a really big, one of those, he's a younger player type of thing. And then, that cost us, because
we also didn't use that one timeout early. I felt like we could have saved 2 for when we pushed maybe into their 50 or like around our 45, but we could have used one in our own half, right? We could have saved some clock time to do that. Because remember, the clock also stops in college football whenever you get a first down, right? It restarts when the ball is placed, but you can walk up with the ref, and as soon as they place it, you could already have your play call done by that point. So you're not really losing time. So I feel like we could have maybe used a timeout earlier, but he decided not to. In hindsight, like, they played it perfectly. The only thing is, as you're talking about, maybe if we had gotten a few more yards, maybe that field goal goes in.
Yep.
Right? And that's the only what if scenario about that drive. Otherwise, that drive was played pretty much to perfection.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that are talking about the early clock management are saying, no, why would you let the clock run down that much? Well, do you really want to give Washington the ball?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, at that point, Jimmy Lake's over there thinking, oh, I'm about to get the ball back. I'm going to get the ball back with 40 seconds left.
I mean, that scenario played out exactly last night in Sunday Night Football.
Yes, it did.
Right?
Yep.
He gave Aaron Rodgers 37 seconds on the clock, and he marched down the field, gave Mason Crosby a decent kick distance, and knocked it through, and they won the game.
Niners secondary and Cal secondary played about identical in those 2 games.
But the clock management is exactly how it was played, right? Like, Juszczyk, I honestly believe Juszczyk on that touchdown play at the 37-minute mark, he gets hit right on like the 2-yard line. He should have just gone down. He should have gone down.
Dude, don't get me started. I was arguing with people all last night on Twitter about this. I do not think in it. Okay, this is not a Niners podcast, but it is Aaron Rodgers. All I'm going to say is that it's great in theory that you can go down, but the assumption that you're going to score is a false one. And then what I would say is the difference there. So I would look at the win probability between not scoring and scoring versus the win probability of 40 seconds left on the clock versus 30. And like, which one makes up the bigger gap? And I would bet that you take the points and you don't play soft defense against Aaron. Look, the first one was an amazing Aaron Rodgers throw.
Yeah.
The second one was literally, we went solo on the outside. Like, that was on D'Amico Ryans. What a stupid play call that was. Are you serious? You're going to let Devontae Adams, concussed Devontae Adams of all people, be on the outside? ISO? Like, ridiculous. And then there's no safety help. I mean, it's just absurd. But like, also, I just was like, oh wow, like, this is, the Niners are playing a collegiate level of football right now.
It was just, I think, like a collective sigh and like hold your breath moment went out as soon as the Niners scored and there was 37 seconds left on the clock and the camera panned to Aaron Rodgers. And you're like, it's happening again. It's happening again. But
we need to digress.
We digressed.
He's elite. It's awesome.
He is so fun to watch. My God. Remember this. So tie this all back full circle. Remember what like Aaron Rodgers was saying after their first week loss against New Orleans? He's like, it was a fluke loss. It was a surprise loss. It like happened. We're past it. And then after this game on Saturday night, he's like, this is the team that I was talking about. Like, this is the team that we have to be able to win these types of games. That the first game week 1 was a fluke. It's come full circle in that sense with Cal too. Like, I feel so vindicated after everything I saw in fall camp and that I reported on. Like, just I was like, the offense is going to be great. Like, it's going to be good. It's not going to be crap. It's not going to be turtling. It's not going to be the Toyota Tercel. Like, it's not going to do that. And then after game 1, everyone's like, you were wrong. The offense sucks.
Everyone was like, what? I remember that. Like, what were the people that were watching fall camp doing?
Now 4 weeks into the season, we have arguably one of the best offenses in the conference.
And so let's talk about the overall implication of this game, which is Cal moves to 1-3, 0-1 in conference, and the path towards bowl eligibility.
Got to go 5-3 in the rest of the 8 games.
Okay, so you look at Washington State, Colorado, and Arizona, and you probably have your 3. And then you have to win 2 between Stanford, USC, UCLA, and Oregon State.
It's doable.
Dude, it's doable. It's there. And yeah, like Oregon State looked good against USC, but I've been saying this, USC is trash. Like, to anyone that will listen, they replaced their head coach in the second week of the season to a DB coach. Like, that is the opposite direction of the identity of their football team. USC is not a team that we need to be afraid of this year. And until they beat us, I will keep saying that. And then what? We're now all scared of Stanford because they played UCLA close? Are we serious? Stanford, we were perfectly matched up to play Stanford football. 100%. Our team has a great O-line. We have a ton of time. We are literally the mere identity of what David Shaw has tried to build.
Our run defense is actually good this year. That's the thing. Our DBs might not be as good, but their wide receivers aren't that great this year either.
Yeah, we match up well. And then there's this crowd. Okay, then there's this crowd. The ones that are saying that, okay, it's year 5 of Wilcox. We should be way better. And we, that we should be beyond where we are now and shouldn't be in these games. And I don't buy it. One, because every single person in this offseason said, what do you need to do? We need to fix the offense. Okay. We might have had a little bit of also fix the special teams, but none of us wanted to see Regal go because he's big in the recruiting front and in general has been a pretty good coach. So you focus on the offense, you go out and what do we get? We fix the offense. Okay, great. So now we have fixed the offense. As you said, we have to wait for Wilcox to do what he does best, which is get hands-on with the defense and turn this defense back into the, our expectation of what it can be. But there's nothing that I have besides optimism as in regards to where this team would be going, in a year from now. Especially when you think about the players that you highlighted in our preview pod when we interviewed you, and we're like, none of them have really seen the field, right? We're like, Jeremiah Hunter is starting to break out now. Okay, dude, would I want to switch up a system on Jeremiah Hunter? Absolutely not. Latu we haven't seen yet. Jermaine Terry we haven't seen yet. Akili Calhoun we haven't seen yet. On the defensive side of the ball, and then we're also missing, oh, by the way, our best defensive lineman, Brett Johnson, who literally occupies 2 offensive linemen per down. Sell me on why I shouldn't buy into this team long term. I don't get it. What am I missing here? Should we be competing for a national championship or for a Pac-12 championship? Is that the expectation of Cal football? Or is our expectation be bowl eligible every single year? Which is going to be hard to do this year.
Could be harder, yes.
But be in contention for bowl eligible. It's not contention. The goal is to be bowl eligible no matter what.
Yeah, every season. Yep.
But if we look at Utah, who I've eyed, maybe it's just me. I've looked at Utah and said, why can't we just do that? Recruiting wise, we should absolutely be able to do what Utah does. Right? They have ups, they have downs, but the up years are dope. Right? Their up years are really good. And then they have middling years, like a year like this year. Or we looked at TCU earlier and it was like they had a 4-8 season and they had a 5-6, like they had bad seasons and then they went 11-2 and then they went 10-3. So this idea that somehow also like we're counting 2020 again, which I still don't think we should do.
Nope.
So technically this is year 4, but this idea that somehow we should be competing at this higher level than what we've seen. Why? I just don't get it. Like, I know we're capable of it, and that's what should frustrate people. And maybe it is that we just can't get to that next level because we have the talent and we have the coaching ability to get there. But if you have the coaching ability to get there, there's absolutely zero reason to make a change, which would restart all of it. And holy hell, Lord forbid you hire Mark Fox and you are now the bottom dweller of the conference with literally no hope towards getting out of it. Which is where our basketball team is. Sorry, Mark Fox, but that's the reality of it. We could also blame Wyking Jones. That's fine. Both of them are totally responsible for the disaster that is. So, Rob, there's my soapbox. Can you provide some color here?
Yeah.
Where am I wrong? Is any of it right? Where do you land on the spectrum?
So here's a tweet I put out yesterday, right? I believe yesterday. Did I put this yesterday? I did put it out yesterday. So I'm going to read you word for word, all right? People will be clamoring for Wilcox to be fired, huh? So 2 questions to those that do. 1, is a realistic non-retread upgrade hire available out there? And 2, do you believe that current AD, Jim Knowlton, can make the hire? His first hire in a revenue sport at Cal was Mark Fox via search firm. Like that, I need to give you that example, right?
There's no bias in that second sentence.
and like here's some of the answers I got, right? Like one of the Right for Cal guys, Eric, wrote, I think your first question is the most important one, but I think there's also a question of institutional support. It impacts both who you can hire and how well they'll do once you've hired them. For whatever it's worth, I think the Fox hire, both the lack of ambition and the lack of subsequent success, is a direct consequence of a lack of institutional support. The will/resources to level up the program just aren't there right now. Kai responded by saying, is the will dependent on the resources, or can it be used in blind faith in hopes it would create resource? I get fear in swing and miss hires, but what's the alternative? Placating on detracting fan bases with middle of the road hires obviously isn't working. Eric responds, I think if you have the will, you can find or create the resources, set expectations around what are acceptable outcomes and what are not. Obviously, this needs to be grounded in what's possible, but I think the excellence is still possible at Cal. Some of the other answers I've gotten, most Power 5 schools with ambitions in football would have Wilcox on the hot seat by now. No winning conference seasons, and we are headed maybe to worst season in 5 years. But like you said, the Fox hire in basketball scares me. We could do even worse. So whatever's just, stay the course. Others, Paul Delgado on Twitter. I think Wilcox is good, but he has to surround himself with average coaches. D scheme is decent except of DBs. O has moments. Situational play calling is horrible with Musgrave. Wilcox won't get top recruits, so bad coaching with average players equals Cal football. There's let's see, another one. This guy named Beat Wazoo at California Night Owl. We struck gold with Tedford in the early 2000s, and people think we can do it again. I don't think it's possible. Cal is who Cal is. So, to your point, I think you're right. I think it's just a matter of your vantage point and what your expectation for the program is. And we talked about this for like 30 minutes 2 weeks ago. So it's like the exact same conversation we're having again. And like this whole thing about that, people missing GA and this weird like ivory tower we've built with GA's tenure here at Cal.
He was an amazing tweeter, Rob. Amazing Twitter presence.
It's so crazy. I saw someone put out a tweet about like how he should be a dark horse for the SC job and how he was an amazing recruiter here out on the West Coast and a great leader and a great coach. And I was like, most of those are right, but amazing recruiter on the West Coast, not too sure about that one. But anyways, I digress.
We're glorifying our ex-girlfriend. That's what
Pretty
we're doing.
much.
That's it. We're going back into a relationship that ended, and we're only remembering the things that went well. And we're just saying, oh my goodness. It doesn't have to be girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, right?
Whatever floats your
significant
boat.
other.
Yes.
And wow, that significant other was amazing. We should have never left them. Right? There are all of these qualities and traits that were so good. If only we could do it again. But then you're forgetting all of the other stuff that went along with it. And it's not that really that baggage isn't the same with like GA, because he's a great coach, seems like great leader, great person. You know, like he's pretty much like a full character guy, which is like who Wilcox hires. But we're also not giving much credence to the person that went out and found him and took a shot on him in the first place, and has also put together whoever is saying that Wilcox has put mediocre coaches around him. I disagree. Greatwood was an incredible O-line coach,
Right.
Legendary O-line coach.
He wanted to retire.
And-
That's not his fault.
And we have Angus McClure following up, but the O-line looks great this year. And you also add in, some of the best recruiters we've ever had. Ever. And since the Tosh days that people were clamoring about, and that we can't recruit. Dude, are you guys not watching Jeremiah Hunter play football? Are you guys not watching Justin Baker or Damian Moore play football right now? Like, just tell me, what am I missing here? Those guys are super talented. And we're not even playing Jermaine Terry. Like, there's talent in this program, and the talent level, I think, is higher than we've had it.
You know what?
So, and you can't argue, the recruiting sites will tell you that. Third in the Pac-12 last year? Third best recruiting class in the Pac-12. It's going to take 3 years for us to materialize that. 2 years, we're early on our returns on the one before that. And now we have the class coming up. We have J. Mike coming up. We're going to have J. Michael Sturdivant and Jeremiah Hunter on the same team at the same time with a quarterback, that Bill Musgrave, who has put together the 35th best offense in college football as of right now, handpicked to be his guy. And then you're going to throw in a 4-star tight end in Jermaine Terry, what will then be a junior or senior running back in Damian Moore, who, if he's, knock on wood, if he's healthy, is going to be by far the best running back we've had in the last decade for Cal football. And then an O-line that has studs all across the board. Well, for the most part.
They're improving. At the very least. At the very least, they're improving.
What am I missing? I just don't get it.
We have arguably the best front seven recruiting class over the last 2 seasons. That, like this past season, and then this upcoming recruiting class, right? All the defense on the D-line and the linebackering core, right? Like that we've brought in. Arguably the best defensive classes we've brought in over the last couple of years.
And the D-line is the thing. Like, if you can, we're missing Brett Johnson so bad right now. And Bimage last game, Bimage looked like a monster out there. It was crazy. And
former 4-star guy too.
Right. And I think that this defense, it will get there. Colin Gamble played much better. Lou Hearns is still getting minutes out there as true freshman and still playing well. We're not perfect. There's a lot of frustration on third down. There's still a lot of coverage situations that aren't great. You sort of look at that area and you're like, look, there's obvious frustration with Wilcox and Trey Watson, period. That's it. There's obvious. And Marcel Yates looks like that was a bigger loss than maybe we knew it was a loss, but we thought it'd be a bigger recruiting loss. But right now it looks like a little bit of a bigger gap in coaching, as we can tell. I don't know, with 2020. I just...
I mean, so here's my thing, right? Is I guess we're talking about the defense. We'll talk about the defense. We'll talk about the DBs. So the biggest thing is that people are saying like, they're not great. Like they haven't improved. Like they haven't gotten better. All right. Let's break this down timeline wise a little bit. All right. Break it down to you, Andy. All right. When GA and Co came in, and they took over the Takers, and created the Takers, right? Who were the stalwarts of that Takers defense?
Well, at that time, when they first took over,
like when they took over, and then like leading into like 2018, right, which was like the best year. Like who were those guys? I mean, it's Cam Bynum,
Kanasic. Well, I mean, are you saying DBs?
Yeah. So it was Cam Bynum, Jalen Hawkins. It was maybe a little
Davis.
Yeah, Ashton Davis, who was a surprise pick to be the starting safety.
And Hicks and Drayden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Those are the guys, right? Were any of them recruited by Wilcox and Co?
No.
Not a single one. From the previous regime. Right? And GA coached them up. We got to give him. Of course, we're giving him his due diligence, right? He and credit. He coached them up like no other, right? Then GA left. Two of those guys are still on the roster, right? Which are Elijah Hicks
and Drayden.
Some of the other guys that are currently playing, Daniel Scott, Chiggy, those guys were coached by GA. Whether it be a year or 2 years or 3 years. Currently the biggest mistakes we're seeing are from a lot of the older guys. We were bound to see mistakes with the younger guys, right? And we're seeing that, with Colin Gamble, with Lou Hearns. The question I have is, if it was all rosy and everything was going great, I said rosy. Where's the middle? Where's the 2-3 years that GA was recruiting and building up talent with? Because Gamble's a guy we brought in last year. Lou Hearns is a guy we brought in this past year. Like, where is the other 2-3 years worth of DB stockpiled talent that we've coached up? Because we've clearly skipped over all of them.
Chiggy, right?
I mean, that's what I mean. Chiggy's the only guy, but he's lost his starting spot too.
He had a good play.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not saying he's not playing. Like, he's playing. But remember, like, he was the starter going into the season, and he lost that position.
The thing is,
he's on that rotation.
Here's where I land on this one. I think I've had an evolving opinion on this. So the recruiting point stands, and I think there's no argument to be made around it. But I also think you can, in some ways, use GA's success with the past regime saying, we just missed his coach. Dude, I think that guy's an excellent coach.
Right.
An excellent coach.
No, I totally agree.
Film, like, prep, game prep.
Yeah.
Like,
look at the Dolphins defensive backs last year in 2020. Absolutely stunning.
Do you see that one tweet that was going around about, like, what beautiful defense looks like? And it was, like, the Dolphins secondary. Yeah. So I think we do miss that.
Right.
And that's the thing of GA that we miss the most. That people make it out like GA is going to come, like, being a college defensive coordinator is somehow a step up from being a like literally passing game attack or passing game defensive coordinator or whatever it is and DB coach in the NFL. Like, no. Dude, the NFL, do you say the same thing about the minor leagues? It better be a bench coach in the minor leagues than it is to be a hitting coach in the majors? I don't know. I don't think so. But, I think that he's an excellent coach, and that those guys miss having the way he saw the game, and that Cam Bynum and Elijah Hicks, when he was gone, we got all of those articles about them and
Sure.
how they were still basically taking all of that he taught them and using it on their own.
Sure. And I think those points are absolutely valid. But the reason I brought up that timeline was to come back to now. Because remember, when this staff first came in, how long did we give that staff really did we have any real expectations for the defense and how well it would progress? We kind of didn't. But we were going to give them 2-3 years, right? To kind of put it together. It just so happened the following in year 2, it like the DBs exploded. So now let's come to now. Justin Wilcox was coaching the DBs just this January. We didn't have a DBs coach. And then we brought in Trey Watson, who's now the DBs coach. You've got to give him the same amount of time to develop some of the younger guys. At least a full real offseason. Right? Like, everyone seems to be looking at Watson, they're like, that's the reason, or like we're missing GA. I was like, GA came from Boise State. Like, we didn't know what we were getting. We brought Trey Watson in from UNLV. We still don't know what we're getting. Like, he deserves at least a year and a half to develop some of these younger guys into guys that could play in the Pac-12. It's just like, we got to give him that time. Like, it's not the issue right now isn't, I think, the DB's coach. It's the form that the older guys are in. Like, that's where the real problem lies right now, because the older guys are the ones that are playing the most, right? You have 60-year guys that shouldn't be missing one-on-one tackles like that we've seen them make year in and year out over the last 3-4 years. That's where the problem is. I don't think it's a development issue, at least not yet, because as I said, we don't know what Trey Watson is going to give us. Like, he's got to be given time to be able to work with these guys. That's my thing on the DBs.
Yeah, it's well said. I think it's point well taken. It's losing sucks.
Yeah.
Losing is frustrating.
Plus we lost 3 NFL talent DBs.
Yeah.
We're not the Alabamas. We're not replacing NFL talent with NFL talent. Like, it's going to take time to replace some of the talent. Maybe some of those guys won't develop into NFL talent guys. But, like, we can't expect that year in and year out. And I don't want to say, like, we need to lower expectations, but, like, we kind of do. We just can't expect that year in, year out.
Yeah.
Remember?
And it's
go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the trade we make.
Right.
We all, or at least you and I both said, we would trade a little bit of defensive efficiency if we could gain it on the offense.
Right. Which we did.
Which we did. And so now we just got to get it back. There's no reason why this team can't rattle off 4 wins in a row.
Right.
There's no reason why this team can't rattle off 4 losses in a row. Like, it's the reality of where we are. But I think you can't. We went 8-5, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, Cal's about to make that step," but then we lost talent, right?
Yeah.
After that year, it's like we lost a lot of talent. We had a once in a generational player in Evan Weaver. Like, he was incredible. Like, we were just talking about it. It's like you see the best stat line from Sacramento State. And it's like, oh yeah, Evan Weaver doubled that against Pac-12 play every single game. He was incredible. And you also had And I think Evan Weaver made up for a lot on our team in many ways. And we're missing Coin Dang. Shout out Coin Dang, intro on the pod. And that hurts too. So all this to say, like, what are we expecting here? Like, you got to take the downs with the ups. So if this is a down because 2020 does not count and 2020 should not count, to me, I'd bet on the future of this team. And it just sort of seems like people don't have the patience for it. Oh, it's year 5. It's not. Like, just get it out of your head of what it's supposed to be. Gary Patterson is the perfect example of this. Once TCU moved into into the Big 12, he is the perfect example of this. To me, if you were to ask me right now, all right, as a donor, whatever that special donor status I got was, that it's come with 0 perks that they said there'd be perks. If you told me that I needed to, I had a choice and I had to either extend Wilcox for the next 10 years. So we'd say 15 years or not. I'd give him the 10. That's just the confidence I have. He understands the game. He understands this program. He looks at it objectively. The only knock against him is he sucks with the media. He cannot answer questions after a game. He's fantastic with the media. He sucks at post-game media. Every other time, I think he's great. Post-game, he's atrocious. And I think he just competes, man. The dude is a competitor. And, like, that's what I want as my head coach. Like, I want the competitor. Sonny Dykes was fantastic with the media. I loved talking to Sonny. He'd look you directly in the eye. He'd give you a really nice answer. You'd feel better about yourself. You walk out of the room. Like, he was fantastic with the media. But, like, I never got that competitor as much out of Sonny as I do out of Wilcox. Like, Wilcox competes. He wants his team to compete, and he wants that team to win. I still think our ceiling is highest right now with Wilcox as our head coach. And we could literally win one game the rest of the year, and I will be sitting here saying the same thing. I have completely resigned myself to that fact that if this season goes full upside down, I still have 100% confidence that he's the right person for the program. And that might sound insane, but I cannot in any way justify what you just said earlier, which is bringing on another head coach and resetting this program again and taking that risk of becoming Wazoo. You hire an anti-vaxxer.
I think to your point, like, the biggest thing is if you have the institutional support and the structure already in place for success in collegiate football, you can make those changes and still sustain yourself, right? As a lot of people said in the replies, we don't have that. It's been can you remind me, how many years has it been since Carol Christ took on the stadium debt? That was what, 2 years ago now?
She did a great job.
Which is amazing. But that alone tells you the institutional support that we've been lacking. It took 20, what year was that? 2012? 2013? When we played at AT&T for the whole year?
Yeah.
Since then, so it's been about 10 years. So it took 8 years before, like, we had the institutional support of, we're going to help you out with some of your debt, and you're not going to be trying to keep yourself afloat for so long. And so we're trying to build that, and also on the, like, whole Wilcox, like, removing thing, I think honestly it comes down to 2 factors. One, do you have a donor who's going to come to you and it's like, here is the money to fire him and go get a new head coach, right? Do you have that? And 2, people forget Coach Wilcox was on the search committee when they were looking for a new AD. Carol Chris put him on the search committee with Lindsey Gottlieb, and they found Jim Knowlton. You think Knowlton is going to fire Wilcox after one bad season? Do you know how bad that would look on his AD resume? That he fired the head coach that helped get him hired? off of one bad season? Nope. Not happening. Absolutely not.
What do the fans think, Rob?
What do the fans think? What do the fans
What do they think?
Let's head to the Twitters. Because, of course, that is the best gauge to get a sense of the fans. Not just the, whatchamacallit, the comment section on Rivals or Right for California, which that alone was a total, I didn't even dive into that. I didn't need that on my brain. Sid, our dear friend Sid, she says, the thing that was most irritating to me, at least, were the penalties. Good point. It was a bit surprising since we have actually been pretty good in the last 3 games. Also, I actually didn't freak out as much as I thought. I thought we played much better. Sensible.
MVP. MVP.
Sensible.
Sid
Super
is the
sensible.
best.
You know what's hilarious is that so this other person tweeted at us with this question. Do you think the secondary did better or worse? What do you think they could still what do you think they still need to improve on in the next coming games? And parenthesis, by the way, I'm Sid's younger sister.
No way.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Let's go, Sid's family.
So what do you think?
Well, my reaction is definitely in line with Sid's. Like, yeah, you can't be mad at it. I don't know. You can be mad at it. Trust me, people are mad at that game. I will not allow myself to be mad at that game. I thought we played well. It was fun. Second half defense, my goodness.
We're great.
Played super well.
It was really good.
Yeah. I think to address Sid's family member's question, I can't remember who it was, but the secondary I thought played.
Her name's Bailey. We should say it on the air.
Hey, Bailey. All right, Bailey. So this is what's up. I think that the secondary played much better in the second half. I thought that Drayden came up with a huge play. I thought that it was kind of a thing that worked in combination where when we sent more we kind of tried to hurry the quarterback. And anytime that happened, it helped us defensively.
Good things happened.
So good things happened the more times we were able to get pressure on the quarterback. So I think that, and you have to remember too, like I thought that whoever was it Nick or Nam or even Trace, I can't remember, but like Washington is a powerhouse. The talent they have there is at the level of USC. So we played great. I don't know. I thought the secondary played great, man. We were right in that game. We, Bimage had that. I want to highlight him. It's not the secondary, but just like defensively, that play where he stood that guy up and then ripped the ball out was just awesome. Awesome. And he came up with the fumble. He did it all in one play. I was like, dude, get him in the game more often. I was just like, that was a huge play.
Yeah, he was the highest rated Cal defender on PFF with a run defense rating of 91.
I mean, that's a Patrick Laird type of find. Except he was a 4-star recruit. But like, he wasn't playing. He just was like, I'm in a graduate program at Cal. I think I want to keep playing football. I think that's a big find for us. So, but I think that it's the play of the linebackers, of the D-line, the ability to get pressure on the quarterback that then made, the defensive back group be able to be better.
Right.
So it worked in tandem. They elevated their game. So did everybody else. The outcome of that was a much better performance than we've seen. And really an unfortunate loss at the end of the day. So Sid's reaction entirely is just like, yeah, sometimes you don't win.
Yeah. And my boy, Ethan Saunders, with the only sack of the game and the fumble of the game. Huge. He was great. Yeah, those are the only comments we got today. But is there anything else we need to talk about this game? I feel like the trends of the conversations have been relatively similar over the last 3 weeks, including this week.
I'm trying to think of something entirely. Okay, I know what it is. Let's talk about Jeremiah Hunter. I called it the awakening, but it's totally inaccurate because he's already been awake. I'm so excited. let me hear your thoughts. What were your thoughts on Jeremiah Hunter this last game?
I mean, I've been saying it for a while, man. I've been saying like Hunter is that guy. He's gonna be that guy, and he's now turned into that guy. Like now, okay. Knock on wood, Nico's fine, right? Please, Nico, Jake Tonjes, Damian Moore, please be okay. That is all I ask. Oh, also to Carlos Brooks, who did not play in this game. It said that Coindang and DeCarlos Brooks did not travel with the team. So also to Carlos, please be okay. But besides that, we legit now have 4 starter quality wide receivers that have been playing, right? And that's not a knock on the other guys. I'm just saying, like, in terms of production of what we've seen so far this season, we have legit 4 guys that we know can start games and be the focal point of a passing offense, which is huge. Now guys can't just like look at our lineup and be like, yeah, he's just going to go deep all the time. He's going to go on all the underneath routes. He's going to be the possession guy. And then this 4th guy, do we really need to care? But now, like, when we go 5 wide, right, or we go like 1 back with 4 wide receivers, you actually have to worry about every single position. You can't cheat off of one of them. You just can't. You're not allowed to do that anymore against this Cal offense, because we will burn you, and we will take the top off, and we will gain 20 to 35 yard plays off of you on a single pass.
Yeah. I mean, you have Kokoa, who played great, I thought. Then you have Jeremiah Hunter. You have Justin Baker. You have Trevin Clark. Like
Nico,
Monroe Young. Like the team, there's depth at the wide receiver position where y'all remember Vic Wharton, right? Y'all remember when Vic Wharton was our main wide receiver and was literally bottled up every single pass play. It's not that. It's better now. It's way better now. So, I don't know. The Jeremiah Hunter breakout for me, or not breakout, but just sort of his continued arrival over the last few games has been super important in Chase's development as well, because Chase has receivers that get separation.
Yep.
And the fade that Chase threw that got intercepted on the sideline, the one you're talking about, dude, Hunter had a step.
Yep.
He had it. He was open. It wasn't the best throw in the world, but we have that guy. Let's go back to Sunday Night Football. What was Devontae Adams doing with Aaron Rodgers? Back shoulder fade, right? Play was nearly indefensible. What did we try to run against Washington? Back shoulder fade. Didn't work. But we have a receiver that can do that. And gosh, it's so exciting.
No one's upset at the passing game now. That's the thing. Because the guys have emerged now, no one is upset at the passing game.
For the first time in like 3 or 4 years. It's been forever.
Probably since 2017, right? I'd say 2017 was like the last time people were okay with.
Is that Davis
No,
Webb?
2017's Ross Bowers.
What? Hell no. You were good with the passing game back then?
We weren't okay with his decision making, but we were okay with the production we were kind of getting because of the transition, right? Because the year before it was like an air raid offense, and we were trying to go a little bit more like run with play action and different styles. So we were okay with it, and then we realized it wasn't great.
Generous.
But the last 4 years, definitely. Last 3 years, no one's been happy. Now people are happy.
What's your take on special teams? Because there is an argument to be made here that we're in 2 years of pretty mediocre, if not like bad special teams.
Well, I thought the kick return probably might make up for some of it, and maybe some of the punt returning. But man, yeah, kicking and holding has been an issue over the last 2 years, and especially this year, it's even come more to light, right? Granted, man, Dario like had an opportunity to silence every single critic in the entire damn world if he had knocked that 55-yarder in, and he was damn close to doing it. And we wouldn't have heard a squeak about the missed field goal attempt earlier, right? And the missed what's it? The muffed snap and all that on the field goal attempt if he had knocked through that 55-yarder. It's just the fact that he got close and he didn't make it. And I think it's a viable like concern. But once again, I've never coached football or played, so like I don't know how to like I can read articles on that like and do all the analysis on offense and defense. I have zero clue on how to gauge like special teams like progression and efficiency outside of was it a good punt or was it a good kick?
Yeah, I think you usually good special teams units are recognized when they're not recognized. And when you notice them, usually something's wrong.
Yep.
Rarely are you like, yeah, offense, defense, I don't know, lots of questions. But special teams, yeah, we're dynamite. It's just not usually the identity of a program. But I do think it's an interesting one because it is now more of a trend than
Right.
it is, or not. It's not just a trend; it's more of a
I think
pattern or whatever.
I think people
it
have
is.
some concerns with like punt return coverage and like the ability to move and gain yards on a punt return. I think that's a viable that's a definite thing that we have a point of concern. But let me know if you think differently. I think the protection on kicks has gotten significantly better this year. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like the angle of the kick on that 55-yarder needs to be pretty low because you need to get the distance. Like you can't kick it high, which means the blocking unit actually has to do a decent job of not letting a single guy through even a couple of feet in. Otherwise, they're going to be able to jump and get in on that kicking lane. But they did a good job, and he got the kickoff. It was just a little short of power.
I thought that was my one critique. You know, he put it a little high. In college, you need to keep it lower. In the NFL, you're kind of used to seeing that arc. But in college, I think, you know, because there's not as much power behind it. It's not Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. He missed a 55-yarder in the same week that a 66-yarder was made. So, of course, people are like,
Come on!
why can't you hit a field goal from your own half? You should be able to kick a field goal from your own half.
Victory
Victory
Cannon?
Cannon. I think we've talked enough about Washington. We don't need. Or actually, before we go to the Victory Cannon, while you're thinking about it and I'm thinking about it, can I read you a couple of game notes? Some just interesting facts. Garbers finished 30 of 41 for 319 yards, his fourth career 300-yard passing game, all of which have come on the road. The 30 completions are also a career high. Also, with the 7-yard touchdown run by Garbers in the fourth quarter, he recorded his 9th rushing touchdown, which ties Cal's record for the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Dave Penhall and Brian Bedford are the other quarterbacks that also have had 9. Garbers also, his 1-yard pass to Jake Tonjes was his 40th touchdown pass of his career. He also threw his 41st, which makes him 9th on the Cal's career touchdown passes list. And this was the first overtime game since the Cheez-It Bowl, and I believe the first overtime game in conference play since 2017 against Arizona. And I think that was it. Oh, Damian Moore's 26-yard touchdown catch was his first career TD reception. Now has 6 TDs on the career.
sideline.
Yep. He's wide open.
Well, I hope he's
Same
healthy.
here.
I think Garbers is going to surprise everybody with the amount of Cal records that he holds at the end of it. People are just
What?
going to be pretty shocked. Yeah. And he's going to be the all-time rushing quarterback for yards.
Even touchdowns.
likely.
I think if he'll get one more by the end of the year.
So I think, dude, just beat Washington State. It's a winnable game. It's at home. We're going to have fans there. And people are going to freak out. Oh, the fan base.
It's homecoming.
Fan base will be there. It's going to be a good time. It's 2:30 p.m. Perfect timing. Middle of a Saturday. October. Good weather. Not too hot, not too cold. I mean, this
Enjoy
is it.
yourselves.
Let's go get it.
All right. Victory cannon time. Andy, you got one?
Well, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and I wanted to highlight a book that we are reading at our company, which is called The Alchemist.
Great book.
I think every single, yes, most people have read it. Except for me.
Really?
So I haven't. So I'm really excited to read it and take some time out to reflect on, what Hispanic Heritage Month means to me. And I think I would encourage everybody to do that. Try to support, some nonprofits. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about Latina Safe House Foundation, which is an organization I've supported in the past and does really good work for domestic abuse survivors and in the Latin American community. So just, any way that you can be conscious about, in the last few days of September here, you can go out and support whatever that means to you. One of my favorite Oakland spots to go to is Nito, which is a authentic family restaurant. And now they have Nito's Backyard, which is probably the best spot, I think, in the East Bay for, margaritas outside and good vibes all around. So there's a lot of different ways to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month besides just going out to a Mexican restaurant. But, just wanted to make sure I could highlight that for everybody.
That's a good one. Mine's not going to be as good. Mine's going to be more of an entertainment-based one. But for those that watch the NFL, if you haven't watched the Manning cast of any Monday Night Football game, that is the thing to watch. That is the best thing on television right now, in my opinion. Once a week. Getting the Manning brothers with guests. Guests are hit and miss, right? Like last week they had Brett Favre on it, and it was like kind of like your old grandpa who doesn't know how to use Zoom, and the entire time is like, is my mic on? Like, am I muted? Am I on? Like, what are we talking about here? Like 5-second delay between like him talking and like hearing a question.
Mr. Ponton.
Yeah.
It appears you have a filter on.
Exactly that. But like usually around the first quarter and like the end of the fourth, they don't have anyone on. It's just the two brothers talking. But you learn a lot about the game of football. Like before we started recording, it's the Cowboys and Eagles playing right now, and I was learning how to like discern like a two-man, what looks like a two-man high, how they disguise it, but it's not a two-man high. It's a two-man high on one side, and the other side is in quarters, or halves. And they were like telling you how to break it down and how to try and beat it, and what quarterbacks do, what routes you need to do, what the DB's assignment is on this specific one, what the corner is, what the safety's supposed to do. Like I learned a lot. I've learned a lot about football over the last 4 weeks or 3 weeks, watching the Manning cast. So it's like fun too. They make jokes about each other. Like Peyton, they talk about Peyton and how long his neck is and how they should have run more goal line QB sneaks for him, because all he has to do is kind of lean over and his neck should probably carry the ball over the goal line. But yeah, I think it's the best thing on television right now, especially if you're a football fan. You learn a lot, and it's good to have that football knowledge. It helps you better analyze games. Yeah.
I'm going to go watch that right now. I believe
It is still on. It is still on.
Okay.
It's on ESPN2 every week, or on ESPN Plus. So yeah, it was only supposed to be for a couple of weeks, but I feel like the viewership is insane, so they're doing it for the entire season.
Yeah. All I've heard is that it's way better.
It's so much better than the regular broadcast. Oh my God, it's so much better. Think about going to like a bar with Eli and Peyton and watching Monday Night Football with them, and they're cracking jokes, but they're also like analyzing football. And every once in a while, like a former Hall of Famer will call them up just to see how they're doing, and you get them on speakerphone. That's exactly what the Manny cast is. And the big thing that people want right now is they want a Manny cast version of the Ole Miss Tennessee game later this year, which would be great, absolutely great. But that's it.
I love that. That was a great pick.
It's just what I've been having fun watching. But that is it for the California Golden Bearcast. You can find us on Twitter at Golden Bearcast. You can find us via email at goldenbearcast@gmail.com. You can send in your victory cannons. You can also DM us an audio file of yourself with your takes, whether you're ranting after the game or whatnot. We'll play it on the air. we'll listen to it, and we'll use that as our talking points. And of course, you can always Twitter message us anything that has to do with the game after the game, and we'll use that.
Sid, Bailey, we want audio recordings. I'm pushing audio recordings. I got like 4 likes on my tweet about it,
and no audio,
but no one
you
sent us
want
one.
multimedia. You want to increase the multimedias.
Yeah, we don't want to hear our voices anymore. Come on.
And yeah, if you're listening to our podcast, you already know where to find us. So that's it. But be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Let all your friends know. But that's it. And as always, go Bears.
Go Bears.